Hey, what's good everybody? It's Don the Tap King. Today I have a deck tech for you. Slicer Hired Muscle. Let's get it.
Tapkings, baby.
Alright, so here we go. This is my version of Slicer the Hired Muscle. It's one of my pet decks. I like it. cedh. There's really not many commanders that actually run the way Slicer runs. There was a new print of Alexio from the Assassin's Creed set. It is what it is. It does attack each opponent, but it does it slightly different. It does have trample, which is nice, but again, if someone has a chump blocker, the opponent attacking that other opponent could just assign all damage to the chump blocker, you know? So it's one of those things that, yes, it does move similar, but I think in regards to what Slicer does, comes out much faster. The double strike is relevant, especially when you're getting two triggers to your equipment. So honestly, I think Slicer by far is better than that card, and I'm gonna give you my version of it. So this deck does, this version of the deck costs a little over 11K. Most of that is in the lands, but we'll get to it when we cross that bridge. So to this Slicer, I never look at Slicer and see 5 CMC. I always see this side, which is actually 3. So yeah, yes, this one costs 5, but it really doesn't. It costs 3. Lotus, Jew Lotus, Simmons Spirit Guide with an Ancient Tomb is gonna get you there. There's a lot of ways. So ideally you wanna get them out turn 1, turn 2. Turn 3 gets a little iffy, but turn 1, turn 2 is probably is ideal. You want them out that fast. And it's definitely possible with this deck. You'll see why. The ready is a flex spot. I read this card as pay for mana, sack a token or an equipment, get Slicer back onto the battlefield. That's all it does. The other effects, I really don't care. The -10 never is gonna happen for me. The +2, it is what it is. Jessica Trispawn, she's a beast. She's a beast in most decks like this. Being able, you're obviously gonna use the 0. And then target Slicer, and then it deals 3 times damage to opponents. So I mean, that's crazy. That's fast damage. Blind Goblin, straightforward. Bolt Bender is probably a tech card that a lot of people aren't aware of. In mono red is great. If you run in 2-color red, I recommend it as well. Basically what it does, you bring it out face down for disguise cost, and when it's turned face up, you may choose new targets for any number of other spells and or abilities. So I'll read that part one more time because a lot of people don't understand. I'm talking to Magic players. When Bolt Bender is turned face up, you may choose new targets for any number of other spells and or abilities. So you could disrupt someone's win con. If there's a counter war, you can make sure that that person is not going to win. But the way I use it is to protect Slicer. They activate a sorcery or even an ability or an instant that targets my Slicer that I don't like. I'm just gonna flip it face up and then redirect that somewhere else. So most likely to the sender. So send back to sender. All right, so just when you see Bolt Bender, now you know what that means. Send back to sender. Dark Side, the best ritual in the game. And then most of these other creatures are straightforward. Godo is an alternative win con. I use the Helma Host obviously for the win, but this is like a rarity. Like for whatever reason, I can't break out Slicer. He costs like 20 CMC or whatever it is with the commander tags. So this is gonna be my second line. It's mono red, hidden commander, you know, so it is what it is. You don't need to run Godo in this deck. You can remove both those cards, Godo and the Helm, and put 2 more protection pieces, maybe 2 CMC encounter in red, which I don't recommend. That's why I have Godo. And then move, like basically with most of these decks, cedh specifically, most decks lists are almost identical with the exception to like 5, I'll say average of 5 cards where you could kind of, I don't know, test cards, put your own style to it, your own special tech, usually 5 to 10 depending on the list, depending on the commanders really. So this is one of those slots, same thing for the ready. It is what it is. Like I said, 4 CMC brings Slicer back. So these 2 cards right here, Anger of God, Brotherhood's End, basically removing chump blockers. We don't want them. We want Slicer to touch face every time. If you're gonna play Slicer, The whole objective of Slicer is to reach out and touch someone.
What do you mean by that?
Pass Slicer along so they can continue to reach out and touch someone. Like that's all we're really doing. And that's the way it plays. And normally good players know how to handle Slicer, but there's gonna be a few occasions where people don't really know how to handle it and the table gets overwhelmed and everyone has a bad experience but the Slicer player. And it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? So these two cards basically are really good to just kind of remove all potential chump blockers and just to keep pushing forward with your Slicer. Gamble, straightforward, tutor, just as well, why not? Reckless handling, the less skillful gamble, costs 1 more, you only can target artifacts. It is what it is, it's not bad, unless it's a tutor. You don't have many options in mono red. Rite of Flame, straightforward. Wheel of Fortune, this will be a flex spot for me. You don't need it. When Slicer's equipped and things are working the way it's supposed to be, you will have, you'll be generating treasures and card advantage. You don't necessarily need Wheel of Fortune. I don't like playing Wheel of Fortune in normal decks anyway. Paying 3, giving people new hands, and then passing turn is not really something I enjoy doing. It can help you depending on how hard you mulligan, but it's one of those, I don't know, it's Wheel of Fortune is a hit or miss for me. You don't need it in the deck. If there's financial barriers, you can definitely cut this out. That's about, well, my version is a little beat up, but it costs about 250, but still, that's 250 you can put into something else. These are gonna be straightforward. The card that I like the most will be Bottle Cap Blast. This, I mean, again, it came from the Fallout set, and I'm a Fallout fanatic, but this one in this deck is amazing. It should never cost more than 1 red mana to cast, and basically it's gonna be removal plus ramp. So basically what it does is, it has improvised. Bottle Cap Blast deals 5 damage to any target creature. If excess damage was dealt to a permanent this way, create that many tap treasure tokens. That's a win-win. I don't know many creatures in the format that have a butt of 6 or more. So yeah, I don't see it. That maybe 1 or 2 that I can't even think of. If you guys know, just add it into the comments, but I can't think of anything that this won't drop, you know? Caught in the Crossfire and Mysterious Blood Illness, exactly the same thing as the other 2, but at instant speed. So, but it costs 1 more, but I really think these are better. Wait, do they cost 1 more? No, they cost the same. But these are better. Because you have to pay the 2 for this one and then the +1, so it is what it is. Straightforward. Thunderclap, I like it. Free removal. Basically, if something on the battlefield needs to get removed, needs to get his cheeks touched.
What did he say?
Hit him with the Thunderclap and done. Bye, 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 you know? So all these are basically just bodies, bodies, bodies.
Him, her, him, bodies.
Display of power. Yeah, I run it. I don't want to run it. I don't know what else to put in place of it. Right now I'm testing it. So I might remove it for something else. I have no idea. Lightning Bolt, Fallout Edition, you already know. Bang back. Alright, artifacts. Artifacts are expensive. The bulk of this price will be in the mana rocks. It is what it is. So basically, the way I pick my artifacts for this deck specifically, bring out Slicer turn 1, turn 2, so mana rocks. Then after that, how can I make Slicer evasive, meaning unblockable, or with, like, for example, protection from whatever color you pick, or unblockable, or I'm missing one. Menace is one, flying, things like that, you know, give them like non-basic land walk, things to make them connect. So as long as he's connecting, I could care less about resources, cards in my hand, and I could care less about my treasures, me generating treasures. So as much damage I could like kind of pan out as fast as possible to my opponent, that's the idea. And then after that, I'll put protection, so pro red, pro blue, pro whatever color you could think of. Hexproof, shroud, things to keep Slicer on the battlefield longer. And then finally, anything that generates resources. So treasures and card advantage, basically the only 2 resources we really care about, right? I really don't care less about lands. I prefer treasures and card advantage. Now, the ones that I've picked, double dip in 2 of those categories, and I won't go through all these, there's a lot of them, but you'll see kind of like the logic behind me picking these artifacts and equipment. Helm of Host is obviously for Godo, the bad man. I don't know of a situation where I should equip it to Slicer. That should be interesting, but yeah. Beamtown Beat Stick is good. It comes out for 1. Second turn is going to be equipped against Menace. For the first few turns, this is relevant. It does give Slicer Menace, and then also you're going to be generating treasures. You don't have to get this version of Manobo. I just, like I said, big fan of Fallout since the OG, the Fallout 1. So there's obviously more affordable versions of Manobo, but definitely in cedh, this is definitely a hit. A 1 for 3 is great. I don't care about the 1 damage. I'll probably take 5 damage and the game is done, like realistically in cedh. So I mean, either I won or I lost. Either way, I shouldn't be taking more than 5, or the table's not doing so well. The rest is straightforward. This Mox Amber isn't really in most cedh decks. It's in a lot of them, I think, but it works really well with Slicer. Give me 1 second, drink some water. Gotta stay hydrated. All right, but it works really well with Slicer. This card, I'm gonna mispronounce it. Naganita or Aganata, maybe one of those versions was correct. The relevant part about this is the trample. Slicer does not have trample. Giving Slicer trample with double strike is amazing, because even if they do have a chump blocker, it really doesn't matter at this point. Great addition, I won't get into it. Pip-Boy 3000, the name alone is great, so we're good. This is stacks, obviously stacks. I'll talk a little bit more about this one in a second. Basically, you want your opponents to slow down. Just slow down. Being in mono red, it doesn't have a lot of speed with the exception of Dockside and a couple of mana rocks, but there's really not a lot of speed, so you're limited, so you want to slow down your opponent. These two, and then also this one. I have a couple more stacks pieces in here as well to help me out with that. This card is great. Gives Slicer Ward 1, which is okay, but it also can be blocked by creatures, and then you get to change his name if you want to. I mean, I guess you have to, but it's irrelevant at this point. Silver Shroud protects Slicer Flash at instant speed, and then it can be blocked by creatures. Great. Sword of Wop. I only use 2 swords. The Sword of Wop and then Sword of Fire and Ice. This one gives me pro blue-red, +2/+2, but I like the card drawer, right? That's good. This one has pro instant and sorceries. It's relevant. There's a lot of confusion when I play sometimes. People think just because it has, first I give Slicer pro white and someone plays a Wrath of God, that it wouldn't kill Slicer. It does. So protection just basically means targeted, single targeted. So equipment, instant sorcery, ability, things of that nature. If there's a board wipe and you have a pro of whatever board wipe that is, your shit is gone. Like bye Felicia. I think people just don't truly understand what protection means. It doesn't mean protection for everything of that kind, and obviously creatures as well. I misspoke there, but also creatures. So if it has pro red, if Slice has pro red and you have red creatures, you can't block it. So that's relevant. Also, just keep in mind, front side of Slicer does have double strike, so most of these triggers will be triggered twice. So draw 2 cards, things of that nature. This one will trigger twice, pumps twice. Let's go to Tangle Wire. So the proper way to play Tangle Wire in Slicer is you have your opponent resolve Tangle Wire first, and then while in their upkeep, after Tangle Wire resolved, you pass them to Slicer. Most players, cedh players, would just like, okay, I get it. To expedite it, I just hand the Slicer around. I normally don't get it back until I'm gonna attack with it. Most players that aren't trolling will just obviously tap their stuff out or whatever, and then obviously not tap out the Slicer. But if someone's being special, right? We have a lot of special players out there. There's that 10% of Magic the Gathering players that are just annoying, right? You have to break it down Barney style. Okay, resolve Tangle Wire. Okay, you resolved it. No, you can't. No move to the next phase. Now I'll give you Slicer. Like that, you just have to break it down like that. We all know that 1 or 2 players that we have to do that for. So okay, the One Ring, great card. Evasiveness. Jite, great card. This is probably the only Jite worth playing. They have that lost Jite. They could have kept it lost. It's trash. It doesn't do anything in this deck. Good. Another stacks piece. I'm enchantment heavy, as you guys could see. Blood Moon for obvious reasons. Slow it down. Underworld Breach. If you're playing red, there's really no reason not to play this card. Like, honestly, it's a great card. Bring stuff, play stuff from the yard. Try to go for that last win. Try to get that last hit in, you know, or prevent your opponent from winning. You know, maybe you have to play a counter spell, whatever. I don't know what you're gonna do, but it just has so many options. The ceiling for Underworld Breach is so great. Like, you should, if you got red, if there's a red pip in one of your commanders, throw that shit in. Like, there's no reason not to. All right, so the lands are expensive. And there's only really 2 lands that are expensive. And by looking at it, you could tell which lands they are. Tabernacle, Mishra's Workshop. Now, I don't run any fetch lands. There's no reason for me to manipulate the top card of my library at any given time. I really don't care about that. I just need red, I need red pips, and I need fast mana. So if it doesn't satisfy one of those 2, I really don't care. Now, some people do run fetches, nothing against it. In this deck particularly, I don't need it. Ancient Tomb, great card. Buried Ruins. City of Traders, good. This was Simmons Spirit Guide. That's a turn 1 slicer, backside. Tap someone in the face, and then it flips to the front side. That's basically how you play this deck. Like, it's nothing crazy. It's very linear. You're gonna reach out and touch people, pass the slicer around, and continue the same routine. Fast mana. Yeah, so, and then also, Tabernacle is obviously doesn't produce land. It's a stacked piece. Basically, there's never a time where I have more than 2 lands. I'm sorry. More than 2 creatures. There's never, I hope I have more than 2 lands. There's never a time where I have more than 2 creatures, so I would definitely have the mana to satisfy paying the 2. Other people may have 2, 3, and they have to make a decision. Do they want the creature? Do they want to progress their board state? Play instants and sorceries? Bring out other creatures? Those are the things they have to make a decision on. Me, not so much. I just, as long as Slice stays on the board and it goes through the cycle, I really don't care about any other creature. I'll bring out Dockside, and I won't even pay for Dockside. I don't need them. I'll put them in the yard and bring them back with a Breach. Why? Because that's why you run Breach. Mishra Workshop, again, that Simmons Spirit Guide, doing great things. That Lotus Petal, like what, like you see the vision, right? More mana, fast. Again, if you don't have this card, not a deal breaker. It does slow down the deck a little bit, but I wouldn't say it slows it down to the point where it's unplayable. You can still have a cedh version of Slicer without this card, Tabernacle, and without Mishra's Workshop. So don't be discouraged. I have 2 copies of Mishra, not flexing, but I do have them, and two or three Tabernacles. Sorry, in my stash. I only use Mishra in 1 deck, and that's this deck. So, but okay, so this is my version of it. Again, 75% of this is within these 2 cards right here. You could definitely make a more affordable version of it and still be competitive, as long as you know the fundamentals. Protect Slicer, make sure he's able to connect, and then keep him on the board as long as possible, right? Hexproof, things, pro color, whatever, pro instant, pro sorcery, and then find a way to generate resources, right? Treasures and card draw. If you do it in that order, I feel like you'll be successful. If you have a version of this deck that you want to showcase, put a comment and put it inside a comment and attach it to this video. If you guys are familiar with the Discord, the Slicer Discord, please leave it in a comment on this video as well. So basically my idea with this video is to have like a one-stop shop. You'll have my version of the deck, you'll have the Discord, and different variations of Slicer the Higher Muscle. So basically, when I make a deck tech and I post it up, that's gonna kind of be like that's gonna be the idea of it. So if you watch one of my videos, you want a different version, you don't like my version for whatever reason, you have other options, and also you will have the support from the community because the Discord will be attached to it. So if any of you guys are able to, please post that Discord for me. If not, I'll find it and I'll post it for you guys. But that was my doorbell. But again, if you want me to post more videos like this, please leave a comment, like, subscribe. If there's a commander you want me to post or create, and then post a video of it as well. I love building decks. It's definitely a big hobby of mine. Just let me know. All right, and it's not gonna all just be cedh, it'll be EDH as well. So just a heads up. Thank you. Stay blessed.
Tapkings, baby.